reported from Public Safety.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Price.
Yes, Madam Speaker and members, House Bill 421 would allow local governments to enact ordinances to regulate firearms within their locality. The ordinances would be subject to the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, federal law, and state law, according to the Supremacy Clause in Section 1-248 in the Virginia Code. House Bill 421 would allow for local leaders who know their community's gun violence prevention needs to best respond to keep their residents safe. House Bill 421 is permissive and not mandatory, meaning that only localities that want to enact ordinances would do so. Additionally, current law requires localities to resell firearms that are surrendered to them or that they obtain through buyback or give-back programs. House Bill 421 would allow localities to instead destroy firearms that come into their possession when the person turning them in wishes for them to do so. Finally, Madam Speaker, this bill repeals the provisions in 15.2-915.1, which prohibits localities from suing gun manufacturers and dealers. This will enable localities to hold these entities accountable when appropriate. I would hope it would be the pleasure of the body to engross the bill and pass it on to its third reading.
Shall the bill be
Madam
engrossed?
Speaker? Madam Speaker?
Yes, Delegate from Montgomery, Delegate Rush.
Thank you. Will the delegate yield for a question?
Will the delegate yield? The delegate will yield. Delegate Rush.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Delegate Price. Would your bill allow localities to ban certain types of firearms or magazines from their jurisdiction?
Yes.
Okay, Madam Speaker, follow-up question, please.
Yes. Will the delegate yield?
I yield.
The delegate will yield. Delegate Rush.
Madam Speaker, I'd ask the delegate, would her bill allow for different standards in each locality that pass these ordinances in transportation of firearms? For example, could a constituent of one of us have to have our firearm locked in the trunk or something in one jurisdiction and maybe different in another locality?
Delegate Price, will you yield?
Madam Speaker, I would say to the delegate that I appreciate the concern, but we already have a patchwork of laws with varying ordinances as it pertains to concealed carry and even some for assault weapons. Also, law-abiding gun owners deal with this when they're traveling out of state, and so I would answer that it is a gun owner's responsibility to know the laws and ordinances of where they live and where they plan to travel, so this would be no different.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Another question, please.
Will the delegate yield?
I yield.
The delegate will yield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would ask the delegate if she has heard of the over 100 jurisdictions that have declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuary cities or localities, and would these communities be able to use your law to ordinance that status?
Yes, and I would say, Madam Speaker, to the delegate, as the Solicitor General and the Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security answered when that question did come up in committee, all of the local ordinances that are passed must be in accordance with the United States Constitution, the state constitution, local law, and state law and federal law. And so part of that constitution is for localities and state level employees to uphold the Constitution. And in that, they would have to follow the laws that are on the books of the state.
Madam Speaker, speaking to the bill at the appropriate time.
Delegate Rush.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members of the body. I would submit today that this bill, if your goal is to not make law-abiding gun owners criminals or be in violation of a local ordinance, you will not support this bill. This will create a patchwork of laws throughout the state where you could be legally carrying in one jurisdiction and cross a line and then be a criminal. And so what I would ask is that we do not engross this bill, and I hope we would not move it to its third reading. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Delegate from Virginia Beach, Delegate Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the patron rise for a question?
Will the patron yield?
Madam Speaker, I yield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would ask the patron if this would allow a certain locality to ban the transport of firearms or certain classes of firearms within their local jurisdiction.
Madam Speaker, I would say to the delegate, as I answered previously to that question, yes.
One follow-up, Madam Speaker, if I may.
Delegate Davis.
Madam Speaker, so many of us live in Virginia Beach, and we have water majority around us. There's only 2 localities that allow us kind of exits through. But if Virginia Beach were to ban the transport of firearms in that locality, however, Suffolk allowed them to be utilized for on their ranges or hunting, does the delegate have a process by which I could get my firearm from Virginia Beach to Suffolk without being deemed a felon?
Delegate Price.
Madam Speaker, I would say to the delegate that I appreciate his example that exemplifies his previous question, to which I already answered. What I would answer this time and say is that the local leaders of those jurisdictions understand the region, understand how water works, and they together could get to an ordinance that they would want to keep them safe. As I said before, this is permissive, and they would not have to enact any ordinances, and there are several localities that have already expressed interest in having the ability to do this.
Thank you, Madam
Delegate
Speaker.
Davis.
Speaking to the bill at the appropriate time.
Delegate Davis.
Thank you.
Floor.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate the desires of the patron of the bill, and as many here, I come from local government, and usually appreciate the opportunity for local government to have the power over what fits them best. My concern here, Madam Speaker, is this patchwork of laws. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I keep hearing the term sometimes of entrapment, and I almost don't know how a patchwork of laws don't get created that almost creates a situation of entrapment for a law-abiding gun owner. I don't know what to do if my locality under this creates what some may consider reasonable gun legislation, but other localities allow more flexible use of firearms in their locality. How do I exercise that right in that locality if I can't get out of my own to utilize it there? Additionally, Madam Speaker, many of us may have this issue when we live in Virginia. We know what these laws are. But I can only imagine people flying into Virginia, tourists, those coming here to hunt, flying in here trying to understand all the different rules and laws that exist across all the different localities, to not find themselves opposite and outside the course of law. So for that reason, I would ask that even though this may be well-intended and I can appreciate local options, I would ask that we do not engross this bill, Madam Speaker.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Price.
Speaking to the bill,
Delegate
Madam
Price,
Speaker.
you have the floor.
Thank you. I neglected to add in, I guess, some of the impetus for this. As this body has heard me say before, I am probably one of very few of the people sitting on this floor that gets awakened at night by gunfire, or has to alter the way that I get from the grocery store to my home based on gun violence that might be perpetrated. So while I can appreciate the concerns about inconvenience for law-abiding gun owners, I would add that law-abiding, as defined, is acting in accordance with the law. And so if the laws change, those law-abiding citizens would then act in accordance with the new law. Within a 7-day period, Madam Speaker, in 2019, from Memorial Day weekend, 7 days after, in Hampton Roads, there were 55 people that were shot. And I know that the other side would say that it's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people. But too many people have too many guns, and I would like for HB421 to be engrossed and moved on to the third reading so that local leaders can keep their localities safe. Thank you.
Madam Speaker,
Yes. Delegate from Fauquier, Delegate Weber.
I was wondering if the gentlelady, Delegate Price, would yield for a question.
Will the delegate yield?
Madam Speaker, this is the 5th year that I've presented this information. I do believe that House Bill 421 has had a fair and open discussion, so I do not yield.
Madam Speaker, speaking to the bill.
Delegate Weber.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the delegate eloquently said, that law-abiding citizens would like to follow the law. The problem with this bill is that a law-abiding citizen will not know whether they are breaking the law. If you would like law-abiding citizens to stay law-abiding citizens, then having a patchwork across the Commonwealth is not going to do that. what's going to happen, as has been explained before, is that you will have a law-abiding citizen who's going to drive from Loudoun County, and they'll come down to South Side to go rabbit hunting with Delegate Fowler. Meanwhile, along that trip, there has been several localities that have passed varying degrees of ordinances. There is no sign as you pass by those localities or that county that says, here's what our gun ordinances are. That trip can be a quick trip. It could be a day trip. It could be Delegate Fowler calling me up and saying, hey, Mike, we're going to go rabbit hunt. Or we're going to go target shoot. Or we're going to go do a 3-gun competition. At which point, a lot of the various firearms that we have been discussing over the course of this session are actually used in competition. The problem also is that not only does the average citizen traveling from county to county, from jurisdiction, from town to county, not know which it is or what various ordinances are, but you also create an incident where if that person is pulled over, that person is visiting their friend and they encounter law enforcement, altercations could then occur as well. That's why I strongly urge that this body reject this bill from engrossment. And thank you, Madam Speaker.
The delegate from Richmond City, Delegate McQuinn.
Madam Speaker, I rise for a motion.
Delegate McQuinn, you have the floor.
I move the pending question.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Shall the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The bill is engrossed and passed on to its third reading. Recorded vote. Shall the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading? Recorded vote. Vote on the electronic voting board. The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 53, nays 46, abstentions 0.
Ayes 53, nays 46, abstention 0. The bill is engrossed and passed on to its third reading.